So I saw the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 movie, and I want to talk about it. But first, let me explain what it's about in case you're unfamiliar. So this movie is an adaptation of the 4 chapters coming from Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 0, and it takes place around a year before we see Yuji come into the story. And speaking of Yuji, we're essentially following his prototype in this movie because the protagonist, Yuta Okkotsu, has many parallels to him. The main one is being a host of a curse that they necessarily didn't want, but unintentionally caused. Yuji eating Sukuna's finger and therefore becoming a host for his spirit, but with Okkotsu, he unfortunately witnessed his childhood love Rika die in a car accident, which caused her to curse him, and as a result becoming a super powerful cursed spirit herself that becomes like this intermittent watchdog around him. And that's like a further juxtaposition here because as we know, Sukuna is referred to as the king of curses, while in Rika's case, she is considered the queen of curses. And just like how Gojo found Yuji and saved him from being executed by the higher-ups, convincing them that instead he would have Yuji join Tokyo Jujutsu High, well, you guessed it, the same exact thing happened with Okkotsu originally. And that's basically the movie in a nutshell. Okkotsu being cursed by Rika, his intermittent watchdog, joining Tokyo Jujutsu High, trying to right his wrongs, which previously was Rika coming out and hurting people that messed with Okkotsu. Like in the beginning of this, we see like this weird bully. Like he was really weird in the manga, but they really had the weirdness come out in the movie. And I say hurt and not killed because Rika quite literally stuffs this guy in a locker because Gege is clearly trying to save Okkotsu's face here by having like this opening dialogue with Maki and Panda where she asks him, he killed those students? And Panda's like, no, I heard they only had bad injuries. And it's like, that's doesn't look like a bad injury to me. Looks like the dude straight up had a gruesome death. But without getting into any spoilers, I'll say that this was a pretty satisfying movie and a fantastic adaptation of the manga. I mean, it's pretty much as good as an adaptation is going to get, honestly. And that being said, there's tons of supplementary scenes in this movie in a much needed way. I mean, just the third act where this movie really takes off and makes the ticket price worth it has like 60% added supplementary scenes to it that don't hinder it at all. And it's not just supplementary fight scenes, it's like supplementary expositional scenes and contextual scenes to just make the flow of things make more sense. And that brings me to another point, is that I doubt everybody in the theater with me really fully understood what was going on in this movie. And it's not me saying like, you don't get manga the way that I do. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just trying to say is that if you've only seen season 1 of the anime, you're for sure going to be confused about a lot of the things that happen in this movie because they inject scenes and context and flashbacks of things that are going to happen in season 2. And even in the beginning of this movie, there's really no build up and there's no like hand holding. It kind of throws you in immediately the way that Volume 0 does. And it's just like, hey, here's Okkotsu, here's Gojo and the Jujutsu stuff, here's Rika, oh no, now she's dead and he's cursed by her, and now we're at Tokyo Jujutsu High. And there's not anything wrong with that. I mean, this was like a super smash hit in Japan where I'm assuming everyone reads the manga there. But, you know, on the Western side of things, it's much different. The anime-only casuals are the majority of the fandom here. And going back to it being a great adaptation of Volume 0's manga is both a good thing and maybe not such a good thing because the first 2 acts of this have like the pacing of manga chapters. I'm not gonna say it's boring or slow or anything, but it kind of takes a while to ramp up because it's such a faithful adaptation at first that it's like you're following manga pages, but it's just, you know, covered by animation, if that makes sense, because it wasn't written to be a movie. But as I said before, once it comes to the third act, that's when it becomes like a full-blown theatrical powerhouse. But aside from that, this movie also tries really hard to have like emotional depth to it, like with the whole Rika and Okkotsu connection here with both the beginning and the end, but it can only do so much, and it moves at a pace as to where we can never really get too emotionally invested with these characters because we don't really know them, we don't really care about them other than they're little kids. I'm not saying that it's going to alienate everybody, I'm sure there's some people that cried, but I just wouldn't be surprised if more people didn't have the emotional connection that they were trying than did. And again, not their fault, they're just adapting the source material material here. So I'd give this movie like an 8.1 out of 10 or something. It's just as good as the Demon Slayer movie, if not better, and the animation is on par with the Demon Slayer movie as well. Tons and tons of Sakuga in this, and excellent sequences that are very much worthy of a movie for sure. Now I want to get into spoiler stuff, so if you don't want to know what happens, check out. So let's just go straight to the third act, because like I said, it makes this movie. The Night Parade of 100 Demons gets so much supplementary footage, and it's so satisfying. It's almost everything that I could have asked for. We get to see all of like the main sorcerers get their little moments of being cool and taking care of fodder in their own individual Sakuga sequences. Like Nanami gets his moment, Mei Mei gets her moment. But one thing that surprised me was Gojo versus Miguel. We get to see just a little taste of it in volume 0, but in the movie we pretty much get to see their full encounter. And the manga made it seem like it was more of like a competitive outing, because even Gojo's like, hey, you're pretty tough. And at the time, we had only gotten a mild explanation of what the black rope was, the cursed tool that Miguel uses. I mean, now in the manga, we fully understand what it is. But at the time, it was more ambiguous, and it seemed like he was really nullifying Gojo. But in the movie, it's just Gojo just beating him down. Like, it kind of washes out any inclinations that we originally had of the fight in the manga. I mean, don't get me wrong, Miguel still does come out looking pretty strong. I mean, especially since he's fighting ostensibly the one above all in the series, but he crushes him for the most part. But it's very fun. A lot of Sakuga, of course. The thing that I probably enjoyed the most about the extended sequence of the Night Parade of 100 Demons was us getting to see what Kyoto High was doing during it. And just like the other sorcerers, they all get their little moments of Sakuga, cleaning up the fodder, and it's cool. But we mainly finally get to see, at least I'll say, a glimpse of what Todo was doing at this time, because that was like the big element of Todo's backstory and his hype, like his performance during the Night Parade of 100 Demons, because it was said that he took down like 5 grade 1 curses and then 1 special grade curse. And we see him, deal with some fodder, but we don't actually see him take care of the 5 grade 1 curses and the 1 special grade, but we do get to see them at least. And the special grade curse that he's implied to be taking out here is massive. He looks like Goketsu from One Punch Man if he was a demon in Demon Slayer. I think that's the best way that I could really describe him. And if we actually got to see Todo clean them up, that alone would have made the movie for me for sure. But other than that, the final sequence with Okotsu taking down Geto was fantastic. Like, the counter Uzumaki that Okotsu winds up finishing off Geto with is fantastic. It looks amazing. And overall, just the sequences in general, there's just really nothing wrong with them. They were all clean, got to the point, nothing is drug out, and it was very enjoyable. Pacing is, what it is for the first and second acts, but man, that third act is just so good. But if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought about it in the comments, and if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.